Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex, and today we have a very special guest, Miss Lisa.
Quinto.
Yeah, because I was gonna butcher that, so I was gonna let you do that part.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. That's great. So, basically, we're just gonna jump straight into it. Being, how difficult is it being, the mother of, a one-time addict? How did you feel in that moment? As things were going on, as you were trying to, help her, be the woman that she is now.
Right, right. Yeah. So my daughter has been clean and sober for about 5 years now, but for 15 years before that, she was a typical, if there is no typical, but drug addict with all the things that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
Jail time, prison time, overdosing, all the things. And this road of being the family member of an addict is a lonely road because I want to make sure I'm talking about myself and not projecting onto anyone. So what I found is I would ask for advice from people who had no idea what I was going through. And the advice I would get would be anything from don't ever give up on them, just keep doing what you're doing, to kick them out and never talk to them again. And that just led to a lot of confusion and not knowing what to do, and then
Mm-hmm.
stop talking to people because it was so confusing, getting, one thing or the other. And then it seemed like that was the only thing we ever talked about. And that became kind of a thing where it was, can we talk about something else besides what's going on with your drug addict daughter? And that led to some isolation, of just not wanting to deal with it anymore. And then it led to my own addiction, which was I became a workaholic. I worked 60 to 70 hours a week, so I didn't have to deal with any of the fallout of things that were happening. It really put a big strain on the rest of our family because, of course, with drug addiction, there's theft, there's, just all the things that come along with drug addiction that everyone has such a strong aversion to, because the addict just isn't themselves. She looks like my daughter, but she wasn't my daughter. And so then you go through this thing of like grieving the person that's still here. And that part is brutal because as you go down that road for a while, you then, when she would go through like a recovery, she would go into a recovery center and she would come out, all I could see was the addict. So I couldn't even see how she was trying so hard to get out of that addiction. All I could see was the addict. So it really taints your view of who this person is and who you've become. Because I started to really lose sight of who I was. I lost myself of, trying so desperately to help her and not really helping myself. And there's a thing that happens that you become addicted to the addict, where you're constantly wondering where they are, if they're okay, tracking their phone, who are they with, and it becomes like this all-consuming thing, because especially as a mother, you're like, you just want your child to be okay, and giving up doesn't seem like an option
Mm-hmm.
when other people are telling you it should be your option. So it's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I can only imagine because I've never been through it, so I can't say I know how you feel or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you're doing a lot of different initiatives, speaking engagements, and things like that around addiction. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I am a speaker now every week for a treatment center in my area called Hallman. and I speak on Family Day. So I'm there to just share the things that I worked for me during my daughter's addiction. And of course, one of those was setting really good boundaries. And that's something I'd love to just share a little nugget here about. And that is that a lot of times people get boundaries confused. Like, I'm going to put up a boundary with my neighbor, or I'm going to put up a boundary with, this other person. And boundaries are for yourself, not for anyone else. That's actually rules and limitations. And they don't have to follow that. So when we set a boundary, it's for us. And then we also have to look at, like, what's our trigger that makes us want to cross that boundary, and start working on those triggers, because that's what really helps us to build those strong boundaries. So what that looked like for me with my daughter was, I told her, I'm no longer available to give you money. I'm no longer available to save you in the middle of the night. I'm no longer available to buy you clothes for an interview you're never going to. I am available to talk to you whenever you need it. And I am available to meet you for a meal anytime. And that led to almost a year of her not talking to me. And that was brutal. And then my relationship with my mother really eroded as well, because she felt like I should still be trying my best to take care of her. And so I ended up having to put up boundaries with her with myself in regard to her. And so it can be tough. It's really, you need to have a group of people that can really support you. And that's where I feel like, even if it's one person that can just make a stand for you for holding those boundaries, and you're doing great, and hold space for you. Because that's another thing that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, is holding space is, I'm here with you. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be okay. I'm not going to tell you that you should be doing something. I'm just here. You're not alone. And when we can do that, that allows ourselves to really feel seen without judgment. So, yeah.
Okay. So basically, just having somebody to be able to vent to.
Well,
Or
venting, yes, possibly, but also sometimes when you're with another person, you just want to be with them. And
I was
even if
not
there's
talking
no
about that.
words,
Yeah.
even if there's no words, even if it's just, I just want somebody to be with me without telling me what to fix, or that everything's going to be okay, or anything, just to be there. Even if that means we're watching a movie or whatever, we're just together.
Just to enjoy
And
somebody's presence, basically.
yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I understand that. So, what are, I mean, are there any common misconceptions or anything of that nature when it comes to addiction?
Yeah. So I think one of the common things that I hear is that I don't understand why they just don't stop. I don't understand why they keep making this choice. And I can't articulate it as well as Robert Downey Jr. can. And I watched an interview with him recently. Um, he's such a transparent person around addiction. And he said, when the interviewer said, why is this time different? Why is this time different from all the other times that you tried? You've gone to jail, you've gone to prison, you've done this over and over and over again. Why is this time different? And he said, it's just different. And the reason why is that when I felt like I needed to make a I needed to choose, I couldn't make a choice. When I made a decision, there was no choice. And so that's what it takes for addiction, is for that person to make the decision. And the one piece of advice I would give to anybody who's dealing with someone who's an addict, doesn't matter who it is take care of yourself. Put yourself first. really take care of yourself, because you are actually showing them how to take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because a lot of times we start abandoning ourselves and, and sacrificing ourselves trying to help them. We're actually showing them that's what they should be doing, and they're already doing that. So there's like this energetic thing that happens where you're just keeping this person energetically where they are without even knowing that's what you're doing. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I can only imagine, how all that took a toll on like your mental health, and things of that nature. Because I mean, dealing with something like that, especially for the length of time that you dealt with it. I mean, 15 years is a good portion of anyone's life.
Yeah.
I mean, and then especially for it to be, your child. So, being a parent is, if people out there isn't have not become a parent yet, you'll know once you become one is, you're always going to worry already as it is. So, to compound that with, going through addiction and so on, I can only imagine how you felt and how your mind was on a daily basis, wondering and worrying and stressing yourself out, probably pulling your hair out, as far as, if she's okay, or
Right.
so with that, so I mean, with that mental health, like you were able to, I mean, you dealt with that as well as, facing different things, different adversities in your life, such as bullying, homelessness, and then professional challenges like business closing, and then also health crisis. Like, how were you able to navigate all of that? I mean, that's quite a lot for anybody to deal with.
Yeah, right. I think it started off because, when I was a kid, I had dyslexia, which a lot of people have. And it wasn't the dyslexia that was so difficult, it was the bullying from
Right.
dyslexia that led to me attempting suicide at 16. I just couldn't take the bullying anymore. And then, of course, that bullying leads to you not having a great, self-image and you don't have the self-confidence. You're really got these ideas of like you are lesser than type of thing. And so then that led to bad relationships, ending up being homeless with an infant, and finally figuring out that, over and over and over again, starting, there, choose yourself. Choose yourself. So I chose myself and decided to get help and left that relationship, got help, really like poured into, taking care of myself and my child. And then, years later getting married, having another child, and then daughter's addicted to drugs, and my marriage ends because not just because of that, but also it was not a good relationship. And then that led to um, a business closure, which actually was just last year. Closed a business I'd had for 23 years. My husband got COVID. My current husband got COVID in March of 2020 and was on life support for a long time. He was in the hospital for 3 weeks. They kept telling me he wasn't going to make it. And he came back from that and he's doing pretty good, which is great.
Yeah.
So I've gone through all of this. I've gone through the addiction. And the thing that I feel like with all of this is it's taught me that all of those things are things I get to share with other people. If I don't share the experience, then it was just a hard life, right? It's a difficult life. But when I can take that and share that with people about, it takes a community, it takes a tribe, it takes people that want the best for you. And, knowing who those people are around you and not being afraid to up level. If there's people in your life that aren't really thinking what's best for you,
Mhm.
then find different friends, find different people to be
Right.
around, because you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with.
Right.
And so, yeah, Yeah.
Okay. So so as a transformational coach and speaker, what is your like approach to guiding individuals on a journey towards personal growth and self empowerment?
Yeah. So, a lot of how I look at this is like it's very individualistic, right? Each person is, of course, very individual. It's I really take a lot of time to get to know my clients. So I know exactly what it is that they're challenged with. Right now, a lot of my clients are parents or family members of addicts, and helping them move through those challenges by choosing themselves, and self-care rituals and things like that. And then I also do what's called horse wisdom, where I work with horses, and horses are a mirror to where we are in this moment, emotionally, mentally, and they mirror that back to us without judgment. And so it allows us to see a version of ourselves without judging that version. And so then we see where we can up level and what we need to put down. I've had clients say, without words, because this is all nonverbal communication, right? So I've had clients say, I got like this message, like, put it down, like, put down the heavy thing you're carrying and allow yourself to be to be held, to be um to be needed, to be important to yourself. And that's amazing. I can't emphasize enough how amazing that is.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we can get a message like that to help us really release that stuff that we have on our subconscious,
Yeah.
is definitely great. I mean, it makes you feel like a whole new person. You know.
Yes. Absolutely. And I tell the story a lot about in 2012, I made the decision to buy my first horse. And that was something that I'd wanted to do my whole life. And at that point, I was in one of the lowest points with my daughter's addiction. This was before she went to prison. And when I bought her was when I had to start making time for myself because I needed to spend time with her. And I like to say we saved each other's lives because she helped me to see how I wasn't taking care of myself. And she was in a neglectful situation when I bought her. And she shared just such a great lesson with so many people of believe in yourself, believe in yourself, be around people that believe in you. And the more time that you can spend this, the more time I can spend uh, in the moment, even if it's like I'm catching myself, I'm feeling a little anxious. How can I sit here right here in this moment right now? What's actually happening right now? That allows me to shut off the narrative in my head of the anxiety and what's happening. And if it's a difficult thing that's going on, like, am I overthinking this? Am I, have I gotten myself overwhelmed in a situation that hasn't even happened yet? So, yeah.
Okay. So what role do you feel like storytelling plays in your speaking engagements? And then how do you use that? How you use that personal anecdote to connect and inspire with your audience?
Yeah. So personal storytelling, I feel like is really important because it allows us to be relatable. And I always like to use whatever I've been through in instead of we, and I catch myself because sometimes I say that, but this was the experience I had. And the storytelling also allows the person who's listening to you to become part of the story. instead of just listening to what someone's saying. You can
Right.
pull them into the story and have them experience it with you in a sense. Yeah, I feel like storytelling is something that is so vitally important for us as a species because we we need each other. We're all connected. I had someone ask me, if you could have a superpower, what would that superpower be? And I said that that superpower would be that everyone would know that we're all connected and nothing separate. And when we separate ourselves is when we suffer, plain and simply.
Mhm. That's interesting. Um, so uh, let's see. Okay, so how do you feel that authenticity and vulnerability? Do you feel like that's important in your work?
100%. Absolutely. So I am authentically myself all the time. And I've been that way for a long time just because I never felt like I needed to put on a mask to be someone else when I'm around people. And I feel like when you're authentic, you allow other people to be authentic as well. And
Mhm.
that authenticity allows you to show up in a way to where the other person feels very comfortable in your presence. And then the vulnerability takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. And sometimes people don't see how those go together, but it's very true. You can't have courage without vulnerability, and you can't have vulnerability without courage. Um, One of the people I love the most that talks a lot about this is Brene Brown, who eloquently talks about this a lot, and that our vulnerability is our superpower. It is how we can allow people to see us where we are. And if that if that is met with judgment, then obviously that person is not authentic. Vulnerability usually leads to someone else being able to be vulnerable as well. There's almost like, well, she was vulnerable, so then I can be vulnerable as well. And it allows us also to just know that we're we're all going through something. None of us are sitting somewhere knitting cat mittens and not thinking about, anything. We all have something going on.
Mhm.
And I've often said, we all have something going on. The one thing that you can do that will change things is be kind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you feel are some common mindset traps or limiting beliefs that you've encountered in your work, and how do you help individuals overcome them?
So, yeah, the limiting beliefs a lot of times they can be very sneaky. They can be things like um, wanting to control the outcome, um, not trusting yourself, not showing up for yourself. Um, Limiting beliefs also are procrastination and uh, and isolation. Those things are all a type of limiting belief, and limiting beliefs are a lot of times things that we heard when we were young children, and we made a meaning out of what was said. And that little version of us said that, you know I heard my uncle say children should be seen and not heard, so I won't speak up. Or um why are you crying? I'll give you something to cry about. All of these things that we hear, right, are little in, you know, what our 5-year-old, 7-year-old brain makes a meaning out of that. And that meaning is running the show, no matter what age you are. If you haven't gone back and helped that inner child be seen and heard. And that's part of the work that I do, is helping to heal that inner child and doing some shadow work. And inner child work is just, it's so fulfilling because it's a thing that continues on and on. But once you start it, it's something you want to continue because you realize there's all these versions of you. You're creating versions of you constantly. And when you can even go back to the version you had last week and say, hey, I see you, you were stressed out and you kind of bit your partner's head off. Like, it's okay. You know, hey, we're going to be in a better place now. And even just going that far back, just recently, allows us to really evolve, because we're not saying that that version of myself, we're not there, but it still exists, and you get to decide how it's going to run the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um. So, what do you feel is the most rewarding aspect of, you know, of what you're doing as far as being a speaker and as far as being like a life coach and so on and so on?
I think it's one of the most rewarding things is watching someone and the light comes on in their eyes when they've been in the dark for a long time,
Mhm.
and they feel like someone actually sees me. They see me for where I am right now without judging me for where that is, and knowing that they're in a safe space, and watching someone go through like a somatic experience, a somatic healing, and their life just completely does a 180 in a short period of time, just by releasing the things we're holding. The mind forgets what the body remembers. Our body remembers everything that's ever happened to us. And your mind may have forgotten, but your body doesn't forget. And so when you can move your body in certain ways, it allows you to release that. And healing is not so you can handle trauma. Healing is so you can handle joy. But you have to release the trauma and the shame before you can experience the joy.
Mm-hmm. I
So
like
yeah,
that.
I would say that's one of the most rewarding things. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that phrase. You have to release trauma so you can handle joy. I like that.
Yeah.
So can you share any upcoming projects or initiatives or speaking engagements or anything that you have coming up that that people can be on the lookout for or that they can attend or so on and so
Yeah.
forth?
Yeah. This Saturday, the 8th, I'm going to be at a retreat in Woodland, Washington with 6 other coaches for a 1-day retreat that is using somatic practices, breath work, um, inner child work. And it is just an absolute joy and very, very fun. And then I'm having a retreat here at my farm
Okay.
on June 29th. And we'll be doing some somatic practices as well, but we'll also be doing force bathing, walking meditation, and horse wisdom. And so I am also, as I mentioned, I speak once a week at a treatment center. I'm also looking to, I have lots of things coming that are in the works, right? Like
Okay.
the ball is rolling, right?
Right.
Hopefully going to be working with the I think it's called the Recovery Kitchen, looking at possibly doing some really great work with the Hoff Foundation, and also Warm Beach, which is a like a conference center, and they have think it's like 80 acres right on the water.
Oh
They
wow.
have horses, and I'm looking at working with them as well. So there's lots of things that are coming down the pipeline that are
Okay.
still in the getting together phase. So yeah, and then I'm starting a book, and it's a long process, but and I'd like to do a TEDx, and that's something that I'm looking forward to as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So that means yeah, you got a lot going on, and I so as far as if people want to look to hire you to get you to help them with, their transformation, or to help them. What was the term you used for the horse? It was horse
Horse
rearing.
wisdom. Horse wisdom.
Horse wisdom. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mhm.
if they would like to experience that to help change their life and their situation, can they just like go to your website to contact you or social media? How does that work?
Social media is probably the best right now, which is, just Lisa Quinto. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. And I think that's it right now. I am, I have noticed that I go through periods where I get super busy and then things slow
Mhm.
down a little bit, and then super busy and then things will slow down a little bit. So I found that I have a website that needs a lot of work.
I got
and
you.
it needs to be updated, and I get busy and I haven't had time to update it enough. But social media is great. That's a great connection for me.
Okay. Okay. Well, that works. So is there anything else that you want to leave with the guests? I mean, not the guests. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Is there anything else you want to leave with the audience before we wrap things up?
Yeah, yeah. I would say if you are if you have a family member struggling with addiction, or you yourself are struggling with anxiety, find someone that you can talk to that will help you through that process, whatever that looks like. There's tons of resources. You can, people can, I have people reach out to me all the time just to ask me a couple of questions. I'm of course always happy to do that. There's also Al-Anon, and there's also like reaching out to um, getting involved with a group that helps with anxiety. And anxiety is, we are living in our head. And I like to say your head has no answers, your heart has no questions. So if you can drop into your heart, that's where your connection to God is and your higher self. That is where that has the answers. Your head will take the problem and spin it around for hours, weeks, months, years, and never come up with a solution. But when you can drop into your heart, and that takes a lot of times just like being quiet, getting quiet. If
Yeah.
even if that means just going outside and standing, on the grass with your bare feet and just being quiet for 5 minutes, listening to a guided meditation, something that will allow you to just get out of your head a little bit, that helps so much. Because when you have a family member in addiction, it feels like the smallest stressor is the straw that breaks the camel's back. You don't handle stress well. And because you've got so much stress going on, and you ask for help. That's something that I feel like a lot of people end up not doing. Ask for help from someone who's been there,
Right.
who's gone through that, because they're the ones that can throw you the lifeline. And your other friends that aren't going through that, or other family members that maybe don't quite understand, just know that they want the best for you, but they just don't have the answer right now.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. So, I appreciate you taking the time out today to sit down and explain your story and how you help people get through their trauma and things that they're going through. And everybody that's watching, I appreciate you all guys for watching. If you guys would like to get in touch with Miss Lisa, All her information will be in the description and in the show notes for the audio version. Um, you guys have just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.